story did he tell you about your mother?
Well, he says that she was a beautiful girl, and not only him, but Uncle John at Waltz. They go down because they knew when the girls would go down to get water, imagine they had a sort of a regular well where they all would go for their water. And they'd when they'd see her going down there to get the water, they'd all come down there and meet her, you know. She was a pretty girl. So he would tell me that. But he called her Sonia, my mother, Sonia.
And you always think that she looks like?
Missy, yes, I do. You asked me about their wedding. Wedding pictures that I have of my dad, it seemed like he must have borrowed the suit because he had to roll it up. My dad was only about 5'6" or something like that. He was small, nice-looking fella, though.
Had him rolled up about?
Had him rolled up about 3 inches. Yeah, in the wedding pictures it shows that you girls or your kids will see that. Mm-hmm. Carrie had me make some pictures last week, you know, at the band. So she'll have pictures. And the clock is ringing, huh? And my dad was a very happy fellow. He played the organ, and me and my brother would dance and sing.
Did he follow music, or did he play by ear?
By ear. We had an organ. Mm-hmm. And
kind of a person was your grandfather?
My grandfather was not like my father. My father was quiet and real nice. Grandfather was a son of a gun.
Sourpuss?
Yeah, all the grandchildren were afraid of him, you know, and I can
not
remember
your grandma?
Grandma was a nice, pleasant woman, and she just had as many children and grandchildren that she had. She always had a lap for them, you know.
Did you count how many grandchildren she had?
She had 67. 63, yes, grandchildren.
I'm not going to ask you to name them. I don't think you could.
If I'd think, but you wouldn't want to know. How about my father? Was a ball player. I remember when my brother Andy was born, I had to go to the ballpark and call him home because my mother was in labor. That was the only fun that they had was ball games. They used to eat a lot of sunflower seeds. I can remember them having company, and then they'd just spit out the seeds. The next morning we'd get up and we'd sweep those seeds up. You know, they were hard, you know, there wasn't anything to it, but instead of finding containers to put it in, I can remember those parties. There was always a lot of company, a lot of singing. And then he got sick. That was during that flu epidemic. And I can remember him coming home, and I can remember him leaving the horse out in the yard. The flu left you very weak. And I don't know how long he was sick before he died, but I can remember him getting delirious, you know. And my sister Vi was only 3 months old, and my mother had her hands full, you know, trying to keep him satisfied and taking care of the children, you know. So I can remember my grandmother coming over with Aunt Amelia, Aunt Lydia, and Uncle Chris, and we'd all be laid out on the floor, you know, because Grandma would sit and watch my dad because he didn't have long to live. I can remember them taking, my Aunt Caroline had the flu too, taking and putting him in a coaster because he wanted to visit her. And we took her over there. Also lost an aunt and 2 young little girls. They had 2 little girls. Uncle Ed lost his wife and 2 little girls. The little girls were about an hour apart because he just checked on one and went to tell it to his wife and came back, and the other one, you know, not long after that she died. And then about 2 days later the wife died.
There were a lot of people during that, history says that
Yes,
it was one of the worst
Mhm.
epidemics
Yes,
of flu. We
uh-huh.
had Spanish
Right.
influenza.
hmm I can remember the funeral.
When he died, or when your mother took care of him, do you know how she felt?
Well, I remember that she was so exhausted and so tired, and she'd cry, and then I'd know that I never was a tight sleeper anyway. I'd hear her, and then I'd come, and we'd both be sitting there watching him, and he's breathing real heavy. He was kind of delirious, he'd get up and she'd have to get him back into bed. So,
So even though they didn't in the beginning, they weren't going to get married, you could tell that they loved each other.
oh yes, oh yes, yes.
Of your brothers and sisters, anyone like your father in temperament or in looks?
My brother Fred looked a little bit like my dad. Yes, quite a bit. Not in temperament, no. I think Andy is more of a quieter fella. I think I am quieter, like my father. Bertie is a little more different. Vi can stand up for her rights a little more. My father was a quiet, very mild and meek fella.
And how was your mother?
I can't remember till later on. I can remember my mother always singing and playing games with us. And a very religious person. But when my father died, they couldn't even have the funeral, couldn't take him to church. So they had the services out in the yard. He was in the house. Nobody could go in to see him at all. He was laid out in the house. And I had pictures. I can't remember where they are, where I was standing with my cousin and my sister Bertha. And how my mother made clothes and everything for us, I don't know. We had identical dresses. We were standing, and I can remember them putting pennies on his eyes because I guess they did it different. He wasn't embalmed either. It was a funny smell there.
There was no time?
No time. They didn't do it. Embalming wasn't that.
Was he laid out on a door or something?
When he died, they put him out there and put these pennies on to keep him straight, and to keep his lids shut. I don't know what would be the difference, because nobody could come to view him, but maybe they just felt that was right to do. That was a way of treating the dead.
Did you speak English at home?
We talked German then. We talked German then. Everything was in German.
And this was in Freeman?
Freeman. Yes.
The church too?
Yes.
And that's where your father is buried?
He's on the Freeman Cemetery. It's out of town about 2 miles. We tried to find it, me and Vi. There never was a marker there. Talked to an old man that was about 90 years old that was at the funeral, but he says all he could remember is that it was at the corner of the cemetery by the fence. And it was a rainy day. It's kind of chilly.
Did you own your house, or?
No, we just rented.
Now we can talk a little bit more about your mom. She was a very special person.
I think she was.
What happened to her after your dad died?
Well, about a year later, my uncle Roloff, that was Aunt Louise's husband, brought a fella over. His name was Lifke, Herman Lifke, and I can remember that we went over to Grandma's son's. No, how did that work? No. Grandma's brother. He was Grandma's brother, John Dowman. And I can remember that the services were performed there. And I can remember Fred laying on a sort of a chest that opened up, and you had your bedding in there. And he was sleeping, and he woke up and he says in German, "Was hast du getan? What did you do?" Because he was going to be her protector,
Was there a reason why she got married so fast?
I think so. I think that she was not happy because Grandpa. I don't think it was my grandmother. I think it